Now, real quick, the first thing I want to say is that I'm not a flat earther. I leave my body and I've left my body and I've flown into space and I've literally seen planets. I've also left my body and went outside the physical universe and I've seen, you could say, different space time constructs where at some level things look flat. And inside this video, I'm going to break down more of how Earth can be seen as round or flat depending on how you're looking at it. Now, real quick, if you don't know me, yo, what's good? It's your boy Dot from Dot Me Now Coaching and Entertainment. For coaching, my links are down below. I also have an astral projection course down below. I also offer astral divination sessions, which can help you with your astral journey. And on my Patreon, which is really cheap, only $10, I'm taking you guys week by week through my own course. So essentially, I'm doing certain things from my course to increase my own astral projection abilities. And if you guys follow what I do throughout these weeks, I'm sure that you will also be able to astral project. Now, like this video, subscribe if you're new. Hype this video if that's an option near the comment section. And let's get right into this video. Ayy. Alright, so like I said, I'm not no flat earther. And a lot of flat earthers, when they talk, they do not sound that smart because they're talking as if Earth is flat with inside the physical universe, which simply just is not true. Now, something I can say though, right, is that there is a way to see this physical plane and see it as it being flat. I mean, when we have a physical plane, the word plane kind of implies that something is flat. So there's a reason why, right? Flat Earth theory isn't entirely crazy. It's only crazy because most flat earthers have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. Planets do exist, stars do exist, and as far as the firmament, I'm not sure if that's literally over Earth or if it's just over the whole physical universe. And here's why I say that, right? Whenever I've flown to space, I never really like hit a dome, you know? But there has been one time where I left my body and I looked up at the sky and I saw the sky crack open. You feel me? Now, when this happened, I wasn't really paying it much mind. I wanted to do something else. I wanted to learn how to firebend. So when I walked down my neighborhood, my whole neighborhood became like a fucking fire tribe shit. And I was learning how to firebend. But I wish I would have inquired more about that because when I eventually left the physical universe and I went to plane number 5, I was able to see all these different space-time constructs and I was able to see how there is like a firmament and that inside them you kind of have the universe and that with inside these constructs there could be different levels, right? Inside of our space-time construct there are 12 levels. There's 5 kingdoms and 7 heavens, right? I know about the first 5 kingdoms: the kingdom of earth, the elemental kingdom, some call it the galactic kingdom. I like to say the elemental kingdom. The third one's the kingdom of Kai. The fourth one is, I'm pretty sure it's called the kingdom of Eden. Then the fifth one is the heavenly kingdom. And then from the heavenly kingdom, the next 7 arches all considered as heavens. Now, with that being said, this universe, right, is composed of planes 1 through 3, and the different planes of existence are not the same as the different kingdoms and the different realms. Because kingdoms, my fault, kingdoms and heavens. Because kingdoms and heavens exist within inside of space time constructs, but different planes of existence exist within inside the greater omniversal construct. I already broke down the 12 planes of existence on my Patreon a while ago. If you want to see that, go check it out. Once again, it's only $10. It's really cheap. With that being said, though, right, I noticed that if you were to perceive this physical universe from outside, you can perceive it as flat. And that flat structure actually is true because it's like a flat universe with a dome over it, right? And it essentially works like a hologram. So let me pull up a picture of a hologram real quick, right? Because with holograms are essentially two-dimensional images right? They're two-dimensional images like this. They're flat two-dimensional images that can be projected as a 3D image like this, right? Now, when you are inside the physical universe, it's like you're right here, right? You're pretty much at the front of the hologram where you see everything as three-dimensional. But if you go outside the physical universe, right, you come over here, right, where you would see like a dome and you would see like a flat plane of existence with light coming through it. So I'm actually making a PowerPoint right now about the holographic universe, which, by the way, scientific holographic universe, from what I've seen, is not the same as what I'm talking about. Also, the CIA does mention a holographic universe. I never studied how the CIA sees it, so I don't know if it aligns with what I'm learning right now. But one thing I do know is the fact that this is like a hologram. And I say it's like a hologram because with holograms, this image isn't really physical, but what we experience technically is physical. To keep it simple, right? We have ether, right? There's ether within inside of the firmament, right? There's ether inside of space. And when light shines through ether, it actually encodes let me rephrase it. When information from non-physical planes enters in to our physical plane, right? When non-physical information enters into this physical universe, right? It's able to encode ether with information. And it kind of encodes ether with a template of how everything is going to look and how everything's going to manifest. Now, remember how I said that the universe is really planes 1 through 3? You see, planes 1 through 3 are the physical plane, the etheric plane, and the astral plane. Now, obviously, the etheric plane deals with ether, but the astral plane, right? See, the word astral literally means stars, right? Now, the astral plane, what that deals with is, you can also call it the plane of imagery because that's where actual images are created, right? Before you have this physical, like you see, I have a physical body, right? And you can see me and touch me, right? I also have an astral form. My astral form looks just like me. It has an image to it, but it's just not physical. It only becomes physical once that information moves through ether, you see? So when you see stars, right? Stars are literally physical manifestations of the information which is coming from non-physical planes, which is why I don't always call that information light, because the way that we understand light is through like photons and electromagnetic radiation, which is technically only experienced inside the physical universe. So the way that we understand light is not the same as non-physical information coming inside of this physical universe and then appearing as light. But to make this simple, right, just understand that non-physical information enters in, right, from outside the universe. And when it comes into the universe, it literally encodes ether with information about how things are going to look, how it's going to manifest, all that, right? And then our sun is like the biggest projector of the physical universe, right? So pretty much when our sun eventually manifests, because there's a lot that goes into this, there's also like a black sun, which that's where black energy comes from. Black energy and dark energy are not the same. There's a lot that when I drop the PowerPoint, it'll make way more sense. But just understand that at some point, the sun is created within inside the universe due to the fact that the light that would make the sun from outside the universe condenses through the ether, and then it projects this whole entire image. So to keep it simple, it kind of looks like you have the sun's light shining through ether, projecting this image. There's a bit more science or metaphysics to it, but to better explain that, I would have to just show you guys the PowerPoint, which is not fully done yet. And although I'm gonna drop the full PowerPoint on Patreon, I will give YouTube parts of the PowerPoint, which is important in order to understand how this universe is manifested. Because when it comes to how time works and stuff like that, it's like literally when you understand how this thing is built, you understand how time works, how gravity works, all that. But understand too that the way that science perceives our universe is not inherently wrong. Granted, they're still struggling with gravity, but the reason why they're struggling with gravity is because it's not fully what they think it is. They call it a warping of space-time, which that seemed perfect at first until quantum field theory came. And quantum field theory states that all the fundamental forces, well, my fault. Quantum field theory states that certain forces come from quantum fields. And with grand unified field theory, they try to find a way to unify all the fundamental forces through quantum fields. And gravity is a fundamental force which they can't yet unify through a quantum field. But they hypothesize that if they could, gravity might be mediated by gravitons, which would be particles that help to make gravity. Same with how like photons help to make light, right? Now, with that being said, gravity can be perceived as a warping of space-time, right? It actually can when you actually understand how the holographic universe is structured. But it's not literally a warping of space time, which is why the theory is kind of like, then also with the graviton stuff, right? There is a way to perceive gravitons because gravitons would just be different excitations of the gravity field, you could say. But even with that, gravity is heavily built upon the effects of my fault. They're heavily built upon the effects of black energy. And black energy isn't really detectable by scientific means, at least as of right now. Like I said, black energy is not the same as dark energy or dark matter, right? Black energy is a whole different thing. Black energy comes from the black sun, which vibrates through it also vibrates through ether to kind of condense the images into physical forms and stuff like that. And with the movement of black energy throughout the ether, it kind of makes these gravitational effects, which also actually can help to align with Tesla's views. I'll explain that in the with the PowerPoint videos. But my main point is the fact that scientists generally do perceive things as correct. I mean, scientists have been able to discover certain planets simply off of just looking at gravitational effects and then being like, oh shit, there's a planet there because the way that gravity is affecting this area, it has to be a big ass planet there, right? So yeah, things are definitely round. Like when you're inside of this universe, things are definitely round. Like there's definitely planets, stars, all that. So that's why I'm saying I'm not no flat earther, but I do have to admit that if you leave the physical universe, you definitely will see how this universe is a plane of existence which is covered by a firmament. And the firmament also actually helps with structuring this thing as a physical universe. Now, I want to say this also. When you go to plane number 5, right, you do have the ability to see different space time constructs. Now, a lot of these space time constructs are simply only manifested inside the multiverse, right? The multiverse is composed of an infinite amount of space times. Now, what's a space time? It's a certain space that has its own sense of time. Now, there's also time spaces. A time space, right, is different timelines within inside the same space. Now, space times, like I said, are different spaces where you have time. And a lot of them only exist inside the multiverse, meaning that these space times tend to exist alone and independent of other space time constructs. However, our space time construct is linked to the universe, which is where different space times condense into one main space time continuum. Now, our space time construct with like Earth and stuff like that, this is like the capital, you could say, of the universe, which is why even when you go to plane number 5 and you see our space time construct, it's like it's like the main one. It's like the one that's in the fucking center. You feel me? And that's because there's other space time constructs which will actually link into our space time construct. And I can't fully confirm this yet, but I have a theory that when you incarnate on different planets and different star systems, that you might essentially be in a different space-time construct that's linking into this universe. So I have a theory that the different galaxies or the different stars might simply just be different space-time constructs on the other side, which link into our universe also. It's probably like that with galaxies, definitely. I don't know if it's like that with every, because I think maybe with the, because when you go to plane number five and then you perceive our space-time construct, you see how all the different stars are kind of different from our sun. But I think that our space-time construct is based off the Milky Way. And what I've learned before is that galaxies are the physical manifestation of realms. Now, the word realm just means a certain area of experience, and there's also realms that don't condense into the physical universe. So, what I think is those different space time constructs would be essentially different realms that don't condense into our physical universe, right? But then some space time constructs link up and also condense in our physical universe, and that might be what we perceive as galaxies. I don't have full confirmation on that. The main thing I have confirmation on is the fact that different realms definitely, or that different galaxies are essentially physical realms that manifested in the universe. Or I should really say that galaxies are non-physical realms which became physical within inside the universe. Now, there are people that use the word realm to refer to the different kingdoms and the different heavens that are inside of our space-time construct. I'm not talking about realms in that sense. So when I say realm, I don't mean the different kingdoms and the different heavens. I don't mean like the earthly kingdom, elemental kingdom, kingdom of Ka. I don't mean that, right? So with that being said now, right? When it came to seeing different stars, the way that stars functioned was different than our sun. Because when you would look at different stars, they were essentially different. They were essentially dimensional spaces. They were certain spaces within inside of our space-time construct where the dimensions were tuned differently. You see? Now, with that being said, even with those different stars though, because like when it came to our sun, it seemed like our sun was what projected this whole entire physical universe. But at the same exact time with dimensional spaces, aka the different stars, if you were to astral project to a star, right? Depending on how you do it, you'll be like with Arcturus, right? If you astral project to Arcturus, you can experience Arcturus as having planets and things like that. So maybe like this is where this is what I still don't know. I'm not fully sure if the different space time constructs that you see in plane number five are linked to individual stars or individual galaxies. And the only reason why I don't know is because, like I said, our sun seemed like the main projector of the whole physical universe, with different stars simply just projecting smaller aspects of the physical universe, different dimensional spaces inside the physical universe, while our sun projected the whole entire universe. But maybe our sun just projects the whole entire Milky Way, and then the different stars are just different dimensional spaces inside the Milky Way, and then different space-time constructs are projecting different galaxies. But like I said, I haven't fully confirmed that yet. I have to go out of body and learn that for myself, you know? Um, and one thing I want to say too, I feel like a lot of people who have seen what I see when it comes to like seeing different space-time constructs, I think a lot of them think that the earth is literally flat because they didn't actually inquire about how the construct works. Then again, I don't know what they've done. But with me, when I first saw this space time construct, I didn't even know what the fuck it was, to be honest. I actually seen it a while ago. I seen it years ago. Like the whole entire dome with the fucking flat plane. I never knew what the fuck that was until I saw other people speak about it years later, which made me want to review that again and go back to seeing that plane with the dome. And then I actually inquired about how this shit worked, which led me to which essentially led me to the physical holographic universe and seeing how all that works. I might be all over the place inside this video, so if I am, I apologize for that. But I just want to share real quick how Earth can be perceived as round or flat. Inside the physical universe, this shit is definitely round. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But if you leave the physical universe, you will see how this universe is essentially a flat plane of existence. And when light projects through the firmament and projects through ether, it makes this whole entire universe. You feel me? So yeah, man. That's pretty much what I've seen. And I do want to say this also when it comes to different stars, right? Like I said, different stars are dimensional spaces. And you can actually experience stars in, I'll say, in maybe three ways. Number one is that you can just go to a star, and then for me, well, okay, let me, because when I would go to different planets, sometimes I would just project my consciousness there off the rip, and I would project my astral body there off the rip without actually flying to there. Like a lot of times, if I'm going to a different star system, I don't usually fly throughout space to get there. I just use a portal, or I just instantly project there. However, when trying to fly there are times where, like, if I'm flying to a star, the closer I get, the more things begin to manifest, and I see different planets manifest, and I see different worlds manifest and stuff like that. You feel me? There's other times where if I go to a star, though, I could kind of go through the star and then end up somewhere else. It's like on the other side of that star. There's also times where if you go to a star, you might get sent back to Earth. And when you get sent back to Earth, you'll be sent back to a period of time on Earth where when that star was you'll get sent back to a period of time on Earth where that star was actually influencing us heavily. So that's still is to experience stars, which I found interesting. You can either see them as portals, as actual places with planets, or as different periods of time on our Earth. So yeah, it's pretty interesting, but that's all I'll share in today's video, not to confuse y'all. And I'm going to end it right here. I love you. Catch my next video. Like the video. Peace. The freak out.